So why Ephesians 2, 8-9 is not condemning baptism as a work? Number one, it's never been condemned before. Jesus was baptized. John the Baptist was baptizing. Jesus baptized others and had commissioned his disciples to, according to the end of John chapter 3 and chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. Peter commanded people to be baptized in Acts 2 and in chapter 10. And on the disciples' encounter in Ephesus with Paul, he rebaptized people at Ephesus. How many baptismal services do we know, or encounters do we know that Paul had? He baptized Lydia, or his group. He was involved with the baptizing of the jailer at Philippi's family. He was involved with baptism of various individuals at Corinthians. And when he wrote to them at Corinthians in chapter 6, verses 9 through 11, after saying, "Such were some of you, but ye are washed." What did washing mean to Paul? Look back at Acts chapter 22, verse 16. It meant his baptism. That's what Ananias said to him. "Now why tarriest thou? Arise and be baptized and wash away your sins, calling on the name of the Lord." And so, or the name Jesus. It's very clear in the context it meant Jesus, because it was speaking of the one who he saw in the way in chapter 22, which was Jesus. And so it's very clear that it cannot be condemning baptism as a work of righteousness in it, because that's what Paul then says in Titus chapter 3, verse 5. It's not by works of righteousness that we're saved. Baptism was not a condemned work in the New Testament. There's too much history of Paul with baptism. It's in Galatians 3:27. He says that when you are baptized, you have put on Christ. That is, those that were baptized. So the unbaptized have not put on Christ. And so there's some of those things that start to become the negative, where, so when Peter said in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 20 and 21, he says, "The like figure whereunto baptism doth now save us." What does that do for those that have not been baptized? It's worth another look at Ephesians chapter 2, 8-10.